Hello, everyone. I'm Annalise Sunzik, and today I'm going to be talking about a topic that is becoming increasingly important: cow farming and its impact on the environment, and why reducing our consumption of beef can play a powerful role in changing that. Let's start with the most immediate concern, that is climate change. Joswiak et al. States that cattle farming causes environmental risks as it is the main source of methane emissions into the atmosphere. Methane ranks second in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, those whose presence in the atmosphere cause an increase in the temperature of the planet, as a result affects climate change. Methane is 25 times more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. It doesn't stay in the atmosphere as long as carbon dioxide, but it does more damage in the time that it's there. Methane is released from cows through belching, which is a result of a fermentation process in their stomachs. More methane is also released through the decomposition of their manure. There is no way around the release of the mass amounts of methane when raising cows, which is concerning. Seth Milstein, in Why is Cattle Farming Bad for the Environment, says that one cow can produce up to 264 pounds of methane per year, and that cattle create more greenhouse gas than any other agricultural commodity. This is a large amount of greenhouse gas that is being released into the atmosphere, and when you multiply that by the millions of cows raised globally, the environmental toll adds up fast. Greenhouse gases are so bad because they trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere. This leads to a rise in global temperatures, which contributes to climate change. Greenhouse gases are natural, however, human activity has significantly increased its concentrations and enhanced global warming. Cattle farming is the largest source of methane emissions, and it's speeding up the warming of our planet. However, methane isn't the only contributor to that. Cattle farming is also responsible for one-fourth of global land use change, which includes deforestation and causes significant runoff and water pollution. These are direct outcomes of the way our food systems are currently set up. Deforestation is a result of needing more space to grow crops to feed all of the animals that are being produced. Deforestation disrupts ecosystems and leads to loss of biodiversity. It also causes the release of carbon into the atmosphere because when trees are alive, they absorb carbon dioxide. When those trees are cut down, they release the stored carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, which is a greenhouse gas. Significant runoff and water pollution are side effects of that because with no trees to stabilize and to prevent erosion, the soil is left vulnerable. All of these problems are a direct result of cattle farming. You might think that cows themselves are the problem. The truth is that the system we've created around them is the main culprit. Organizations like Farm Forward highlight the deeper structural problems like mass industrial farming, weak regulations, and uninformed consumers. They make a clear case for shifting responsibility to not just consumers, but also lawmakers and institutions that support damaging this system. Weak regulations cause the previously discussed issues to become so large and out of control. In order for these changes to actually happen, more laws and regulations need to be made for industries to follow. We need to focus on how we're producing beef, how much we're consuming, and why these systems remain in place. And that's from Farm Forward. With that shift in focus, we can tackle these issues at hand. Farm Forward stance complements the work of Joe Zwiak and others that show without targeted regulation and leadership, change won't happen fast enough. Blaming individuals isn't enough. We need to hold the real drivers of this problem accountable through smarter policies and enforcement. At the same time, A Well-Fed World talks about efficiency. They argue that agriculture is fundamentally wasteful. We're using large amounts of land, water, and energy to grow crops to feed animals instead of people, creating a food system that is logically unsustainable as well as environmentally damaged. That's from A Well-Fed World. With the global population rising, the population of wasting valuable resources to grow food for animals when we could be growing it for humans rises as well. Every acre of land being used to grow feed for cows is an acre not being used to help food insecurity. Food insecurity is created by increasing demand for food while not having enough space or resources to create the food. With so many resources going towards growing feed for animals, there isn't as much left to go directly to humans. The amount of energy put in to raising these animals isn't the same amount of energy you get back when you consume the animal, which is creating waste. This problem is more than just emissions. It's about sustainability, resource use, and long-term food security. One of the most promising strategies is to reduce the demand for beef. Lower demand means fewer cows are farmed, which means fewer emissions, less deforestation, and more resources to grow food directly for people. It also reduces the market pressure on farmers to continue harmful practices just to meet consumer demand. With less people purchasing beef, stores won't have a need to supply as much. With stores lowering their supplies, farmers will lower the amount of beef they are producing. This is how, together, we lower the amount of cows being farmed. Jacob Schmies explored what actually gets people to change their diets. His research shows that when people are given clear information about the environmental impacts of beef, and when plant-based alternatives are affordable, many are open to making changes. However, there is still skepticism around unfamiliar foods. Plant-based alternatives are relatively new and aren't largely talked about. Clear labeling, awareness campaigns, and accessible information are key in helping people choose the plant options instead of the meat. Plant-based foods are usually rich in vitamins, minerals, and fiber, which are all necessary for good health. More importantly, they require less land than raising livestock. The more people understand the stakes, the more people are likely to act upon them. Dietary shifts won't replace systemic changes, but they should work together. Clarence Rotz, in his work with the Agricultural Research Service, explores ways to make existing cattle farming more efficient. He argues that through improved grazing techniques, smarter feed systems, and better policy incentives, we could cut emissions in half. He says that some progress has already been made. Emissions per unit of beef have dropped by a third from better practices. Producers are now able to get more meat from fewer cows. This is proof that when the industry wants to change, it can. However, this kind of efficiency will only go so far if demand continues to rise. Certain fixes can help, but they won't solve the whole problem unless we address the root of the cause, which is overproduction and overconsumption. The environmental impacts of cow farming are no longer up for debate. There are clear signs that this issue is a serious problem with solutions right in front of us. This isn't a distant, abstract issue. It's something that affects our planet, ourselves, and our future. Now we need courage and compassion from individuals, industries, and governments. It starts with awareness, but we need action from everyone. The choices we make daily about what we eat, what we buy, and what we advocate for matter. Shifting even part of your diet away from beef can create a powerful ripple effect. It might seem small, but it adds up. By making thoughtful, informed choices, we can conserve more of the Earth's land and water. Together, we can conserve more land, lower emissions, reduce pollution, and create a more efficient and sustainable future. And these are my works cited. Thank you.